What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 1:55 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. So I want to get you guys caught up on the latest breaking news. But before I do that, I just want to show you what we have going on over the United States right now. We have a US B-52 nuclear bomber flying over western Texas right now, doing loops just west of Abilene. It's been up there for a while. And we also have a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane up in the air right now, just west of Oklahoma City. And it actually got aerially refueled, which is really interesting. It was aerially refueled by this KC 135 with the call sign Euler 24. And it is now actually doing loops just southwest of Oklahoma City. Now, when these planes do loops, it means that they're dropping their trailing wire antenna that they use to communicate through VLF to our nuclear forces. So it's possible that this thing is communicating with some subs or some of our nuclear forces right now. This is pretty unusual. Now, their home base is right here in Oklahoma City at Tinker Air Force Base. There's actually one nuclear war command and control plane that flew from Patuxent River, their East Coast home base, to Tinker, and it just landed right now. So something's definitely going on, guys, to have this B-52 up in the air. Okay, a nuclear bomber up in the air here, doing these loops for a long time. And then also this nuclear war command and control plane doing loops and getting aerially refueled. You can see right here it was aerially refueled. So our nuclear forces are still on high alert, guys. Okay, make no mistake about it. And last night we had a U.S. reconnaissance plane fly into the Russian Arctic near the Russian Northern Fleet base, which is where they keep two-thirds of their nuclear armed submarines. So, very interesting. And Taiwan's Ministry of Defense said a Chinese satellite flew over the southern part of Taiwan at 1500 hours today, triggering a nationwide cell phone alert. And what you're looking at here is a screenshot showing this alert. Okay, it says presidential alert, and it says here air raid alert, missile flyover Taiwan airspace, be aware. Okay, so very serious situation in Taiwan, guys. China is sending balloons, they're sending satellites. So the situation is escalating between China and Taiwan, and apparently this was the first time that Taiwan ever sent out a nationwide cell phone alert. Okay, so the first time Taiwan ever actually had to do this. And here we have a picture showing all of the Chinese balloons that have been flying over Taiwan in just the last month or so. Okay, so you can see here all these balloons flying over Taiwan or just to the north of Taiwan, okay, within Taiwan's ADIZ, that's their Air Defense Identification Zone. So, like, even these balloons that flew to the north of Taiwan were still within Taiwan's ADIZ, but then you had several of them here fly directly over Taiwan. Okay, so something is going on, guys. China is preparing potentially for an invasion of Taiwan, and now would be a perfect time for them to do it with everything going on in the Middle East. The Biden administration preoccupied with the Middle East and everything going on with Ukraine, all these different fronts that are now escalating, and North Korea now escalating with South Korea, would be a perfect time for China to attack Taiwan while we're occupied in all these parts of the world. Okay, we have all of our forces spread out throughout the world. Now, we do have a carrier strike group in Asia that we could use to respond to a Chinese attack, and we are obligated under treaty to defend Taiwan if they are attacked. Okay, so that could spark a world war, a nuclear war between China and its allies and the US. We could see potentially a multi front hot war because of this. Okay, and also, if you remember a few weeks back, the director of national intelligence here in the US said that China installed backdoors in all of our critical infrastructure. So if there were a war with Taiwan and we were to get involved and back up Taiwan, China could then have their hackers go into all of our critical infrastructure and wreak havoc with these back doors. Okay, a back door is essentially remote access to systems. Okay, it allows hackers to remotely access various systems. And last night we had a South Korean Air Force plane fly from Sri Lanka to Beirut. This is pretty interesting and unusual and also concerning. I don't know if they're evacuating diplomats from Beirut, but this is extremely unusual. We know that already several European countries have issued evacuation orders for their citizens to get out of Lebanon now because the situation could escalate any day after Israel assassinated al Aruri, the second in command of Hamas, and then also the assassination of the Hezbollah leaders. Okay, and Ukraine has a deficit of anti air guided missiles. Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ihnat has been quoted as saying Ukraine has spent a considerable reserve on those three attacks that took place. Ihnat told Ukrainian TV, according to Reuters. It is clear that there is a deficit of anti aircraft guided missiles. Okay, so he's saying that they used a lot of their air defense missiles in the last three massive air attacks. And by the way, that recent air attack, the third one 2 days ago, we still don't have any official information on how many missiles hit, where they hit. Everything is being kept hush hush by Ukraine, which tells me that it was a pretty massive strike, but they just don't want the world to know about it. They don't want Russia to know about it. So, three massive air attacks on Ukraine since the start of the year, and they're running out of air defense missiles, according to the Air Force spokesman. Okay. And Russian authorities are preparing for the evacuation of children from the Belgorod Oblast to other regions. Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov announced on January 9th, following an alleged evening attack by Ukraine. Guys, that is very ominous. And if you watch my update from late last night, I reported that Belgorod was evacuating some 300 people and that there's plans in place to evacuate more people. Now they're evacuating children. Okay, you don't evacuate children unless you're expecting a total war in a particular area. That's when you start evacuating children, guys. Okay, so Russia is expecting Belgorod to become a war front now in this war between Russia and Ukraine. And we know that Ukraine launched a massive retaliatory strike on Belgorod last week. And I think over 2 dozen people were killed. So the situation is escalating, guys. This is Russian territory now that they have to evacuate children from because the war is spilling into their territory. And this is something that could push Putin over the edge and could cause him to launch tactical nukes. And the Kremlin has said that the Russian military would do everything in its power to tackle an increase in Ukrainian shelling of the border city of Belgorod. Of course, our military will continue to do everything in order to minimize the danger at first and then eliminate it entirely, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said. And the Russian Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, said maintaining the combat readiness of the Russian nuclear triad at the highest level is one of the key activities facing the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So he's basically saying that the nuclear triad is the number one priority right now for the Russian military. And that's true because they have a lot of old missiles that they need to upgrade. and they're in the process of doing that. And speaking of nuclear triad, I find it interesting that suddenly Sergei Shoigu would say that maintaining the readiness of their triad is the most important thing after they canceled the upgrade of some of their Topol M mobile missile launchers. And they canceled those upgrades till at least 2025. And that's very concerning because the Topol M launchers that they plan to upgrade are the last launchers on mobile platforms that carry the giant 800 kiloton singular warhead. Most of their newer upgraded mobile launchers have multiple smaller warheads, which are used for attacking military targets, like if they attacked our military bases, but they still have those 18 Topol M launchers that have a singular 800 kiloton warhead. And many Western analysts who are experts in nuclear weapons theorize that those remaining 18 launchers are held by Russia as an ace in the hole in a nuclear war against the US. They could use those 18 giant warheads to destroy all of our major cities. And so, hence the delay in the upgrade to the smaller multiple warhead reentry vehicles, okay? Because they're expecting some kind of a showdown with the US potentially within the next year or two. So, they decided to delay the modernization. And before I continue with the breaking news, I want to just quickly mention something. My friend Oleg, also known as Oregon Preparedness on YouTube, is going through some hardships right now. He just got into an accident with his big rig. He drives a big rig for a living, and he got into an accident and damaged the front end of his truck. And some of you guys may know that fixing a big rig is very expensive. Just think about a car, how much a body shop will charge you to fix your car if you get into a little fender bender. Now imagine a big rig, much more expensive, and the laws of driving a truck are very strict in the US. You cannot drive with a messed up front end. He needs some money to fix his front end so this way he can continue to drive and make money to pay the bills. He has a wife and 2 kids, and finances are really tough because of this. This happened over the holidays. And to all you guys that have already donated to his GoFundMe, he wanted me to tell you guys thank you very much. I see there's been some very generous donations here. So I'm going to leave a link to his GoFundMe in the comment section down below. I'm going to pin it as a comment, and I'm also going to leave it in the description below this video. Any amount is helpful. And a Ukrainian drone was shot down over the Kurativ Oblast in the Kursk region of Russia. That's pretty far into Russia, guys. And apparently, there was a nuclear power plant located close to where the Ukrainian drone was shot down. Okay, so it looks like they were trying to target that nuclear plant, and Russia shot down the drone. And more than 1,000 Ukrainian towns and villages are without electricity. The state power grid operator says supposedly due to severe weather, which I don't believe. I think it was because of that latest missile strike. And Belarus is building a new military town just 40 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. And many people believe that this is the beginning stages of another invasion of Ukraine coming from Belarus. This is being reported by a Ukrainian news source called Ukrainska Pravda. And here you can see this base that they're building here, okay, with this fence around it. The Ministry of Defense of Belarus is building a new military town 40 kilometers from the border with Ukraine in Hamiel Oblast. Radio Liberty reported that the first stage of construction is due to be completed in March 2024. The town is being built on the territory of several former children's camps. In May, self-proclaimed Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko announced the creation of the Southern Operational Command in the armed forces, and journalists have linked the construction of a new military facility to this. Ukrainian military expert Oleg Zdanov told Radio Liberty that the new military camp is likely to house a garrison whose task will be to cover the southern border with Ukraine. He added that he would not be surprised if several more such facilities were built along the border with Ukraine. But if the political unification of Belarus and Russia takes place, the doctrine will change to an offensive one. Then it will be a military base for attack. Okay, so Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, last year formed a new military command called the Southern Military Command, and now they're building a military town just 40 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Very suspicious, guys. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a 25% off sale on their 4-week emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you have to go to preparewithNYPrepper.com. And again, that's 25% off of their 4-week emergency food supply. That's a $60 discount. And the food supply includes over 2,000 calories per day, up to a 25-year shelf life. It's packed into 2 rugged buckets and weighs 38 pounds total. Free shipping is included. And what's great about this is you have 4 weeks of food in just 2 buckets. You can easily put that anywhere. And if you have to bug out, you can easily throw that in your vehicle. Now, My Patriot Supply also has a general store where they sell pretty much any prepping and survival related product you could imagine. To get to their general store, you have to go to the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the preparewithNYPrepper.com webpage. You click on that logo and it takes you to their general store, and you can see they have pretty much anything you could imagine. They have potassium iodide at a great price. I have a few of these. They also have survival bars, survival seeds, water filters, solar generators, anything you can imagine. So check out preparewithNYPrepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 1-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. And Hungary has indicated that it might lift its veto over EU aid to Ukraine if the funding is reviewed each year. This is being reported by Politico. Okay, so as long as the aid is reviewed, I guess they're okay with it. Want to show you guys this map here provided by Intel Schizo on Twitter. And you can see here that the USS Dwight Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group is right next to Yemen, guys, and all of its associated warships are all right here in the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Okay, the USS Laboon, USS Mason, USS Gravely, these are all Tomahawk missile ships. The USS Philippine Sea, okay, all these ships here carry at least 90 Tomahawk missiles each, okay, plus the Eisenhower itself has dozens of fighter jets, okay. So at any moment, the U.S. could give the order to launch a massive strike on Yemen. We'll have to wait and see. But the UK Navy is deploying a 3rd warship to the Red Sea. The Defense Minister of the UK, Grant Shapps, confirmed that the HMS Richmond, a Type 23 frigate, is now going to join the existing 2 other ships that they've already sent to the Red Sea, okay? So that is pretty serious. And India has announced that they're going to be sending more ships as part of the enhanced maritime security operation. They specified 10 warships total, okay? India is sending 10 warships to the Red Sea, guys, okay? And this area to keep the shipping lanes open. They've already sent 3 ships, I believe. Now they're going to send 10 more. Absolutely insane, guys. And we have this massive shipping company called Hapag-Lloyd saying that they still consider the situation in the Red Sea dangerous and are diverting all their ships around Africa. Okay, Hapag-Lloyd is a massive shipping company. And the European Union spokesman told Al Arabia that Joseph Borrell's visit to the Middle East is for the purpose of stopping an escalation, and that's the main purpose that he's going to be visiting the Middle East. Joseph Borrell is the foreign minister of the EU, and he's going to the Middle East now. And what's interesting is the German foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, is in the Middle East right now. Blinken is in Israel right now. So we have all these top foreign ministers visiting the Middle East to try to stop an escalation. Okay, that means that something is about to go down between Israel and Hezbollah, potentially between Israel and Iran. And basically, in a last ditch effort, they're trying to stop a major war from breaking out. So they're sending all their top diplomats to try to stop it, but it's not going to work, guys. Okay, it's too late. And there were massive air raids by Israeli fighter jets in southern Lebanon earlier this morning. And there were also rocket attacks in northern Israel, in the northern Galilee, and in Tel Aviv. And keep in mind that Anthony Blinken is actually in Israel right now. So while they were attacking Israel from the north and from the Gaza Strip, Anthony Blinken was actually there, okay? Reuters reported that an Israeli drone strike killed 3 Hezbollah members in southern Lebanon so far today, and 20 rockets were launched from southern Lebanon towards northern Israel today so far. Hezbollah said it attacked the Israeli Northern Command base with drones in retaliation for the assassination of al Aruri and the commander of the Radwan Force. The Radwan Force was the special operations force of Hezbollah. They assassinated the commander of that force just 2 days ago. And the Israeli army confirms that one of its headquarters on the northern front was attacked without causing damage. And Hezbollah apparently tried to target an Israeli gas platform in the eastern Mediterranean known as Karesh. Okay, so lots of tension between Hezbollah and Israel. And I think Israel's going to try to go into Lebanon and clear out Hezbollah. I think it's just a matter of time. And the Israeli army said that they're deepening their ground operations inside of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. And Latvia is going to be deporting 1,200 Russians for failure to fulfill immigration requirements. Okay. Very concerning, guys. All right. We know that Putin already warned Latvia a few months back in the fall time, and now they're deporting 1,200 Russians. That is serious. And Turkey lifted the blockade of the Bosphorus Strait for NATO military ships. The US and UK vessels can now pass through the Bosphorus Strait, and an agreement will be signed this week in Istanbul with Romania and Bulgaria. And the delivery of the first 6 Danish F 16 jets to Ukraine, which was expected to take place around the end of 2023, has been postponed until the second quarter of 2024. Danish newspaper Berlingske reported on January 6th, citing the country's defense ministry. Some of the necessary conditions for the transfer of the F 16s, including pilot training, have not been met, the ministry said, noting that the training schedule depends on several factors, including weather conditions. And the Swedish Prime Minister has announced that Sweden will be sending troops to Latvia as part of a Canadian led force to deter Russia from attack, despite not yet being a full member of NATO, warning that Russia is trying to destabilize all of Europe with threats, disinformation, and cyber attacks. Ulf Kristersson said Sweden's natural place is in NATO and that he would waste no time waiting for the final ratifications. Sweden is still waiting for Turkey and Hungary to approve its NATO application, which it submitted in May 2022, at the same time as Finland, which became a NATO member in April last year. And a section of railroad near the city of Nizhny Tagil in Russia's Urals region was hit by a bang, according to TASS, the Russian news agency. Okay, so some kind of explosion at a section of a railroad near Nizhny Tagil. And what's interesting is Nizhny Tagil is home of Russia's 42nd Missile Division, which has 27 of their ICBM trucks, which carry Russia's newest mobile missile, the RS-24 Yars, okay, or SS-27 Mod 2. So I don't think that's a coincidence, guys. I think it was either a Ukrainian operation or some kind of Russian partisan operation, and they were trying to target this railway that goes to Nizhny Tagil, which is where those ICBM trucks are. Probably trying to cut that railway, so this way, if Russia had to move supplies to that ICBM base over there for those trucks, or if they wanted to move the trucks by rail across the country, it would be difficult to do so. And the White House says that Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, will stay in his job despite lack of transparency. The U.S. defense secretary retains Biden's confidence, said the White House spokesperson, after Lloyd Austin secretly spent 3 days in the hospital. The White House has said that the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will stay in his job, but noted his lack of transparency and called for a review of procedures after he spent 3 days in the hospital without informing the president. And Japanese authorities are reporting that the death toll from that massive earthquake on New Year's Day has risen to over 200. And Ukraine has been repelling massive Russian cyber attacks on state payment systems for the second week in a row, senior lawmaker Danilo Hemtsmanov said on Tuesday. Ecuador declared a state of emergency Monday after a dangerous narco boss escaped from maximum security detention and unrest broke out at several prisons. President Daniel Noboa, in office since November, announced a 60-day mobilization of soldiers in Ecuador's streets and prisons as a manhunt was underway for gangster Jose Adolfo Macias with the alias Fido. There would also be a curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily, the president said. The state of emergency, Noboa said in a video on Instagram, would give members of the armed forces all the political and legal support they need to carry out their duties in a battle against what he describes as narco terrorists, okay? And this October, NASA will launch a spacecraft on a 7-year mission to Jupiter's ocean moon, where it will make 44 close flybys. A magnetometer will probe the depth and salinity of Europa's inner ocean, while infrared cameras search for hotspots where water seeps up through the moon's frozen crust. Future missions may land near these spots to search for evidence of alien life. Wow, guys. So they're going to be probing Europa. Okay, Europa is one of the moons of Jupiter, and it's basically covered in giant frozen oceans. And they did confirm the presence of water in those frozen oceans, guys. So they're going to try to probe them now and get more information. But a 7-year mission, that is absolutely insane. And South Korea's parliament on Tuesday passed a bill banning the slaughtering, breeding, and selling of dogs for meat. So, some good news there coming out of South Korea. I want to just show you guys the weather situation in the eastern part of the United States. We have wind advisories across the entire eastern seaboard, all the way from Maine down to Florida and west to Texas. This is where 3/4 of the U.S. population is, okay? And all of this area is under a wind advisory of some kind. We also have tornado watches, tornado warnings in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. We have flash flood warnings in the higher elevations of North Carolina and South Carolina in the Appalachians. Here in Pennsylvania, we have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings. My area is very icy today. We had a bunch of snow this morning, a couple of inches of snow, and then it changed over to freezing rain, and now it's raining on top of all that. And then the temperatures are going to drop in just a little while, and everything is just going to freeze solid. So, just a crazy situation, guys. We also have a winter storm warning in Maine right now. So, crazy weather impacting the entire eastern U.S., the most populated part of the country. Coastal sections of the eastern seaboard could see winds as high as 70 miles an hour from Cape Hatteras all the way up to Maine. So we could see massive amounts of power outages in densely populated areas like Boston, Long Island, coastal Connecticut, coastal New Jersey. Okay, all those areas have millions and millions of people, and there's going to be 70-mile-an-hour winds. This is basically like a hurricane. So I'm going to be monitoring this weather situation. We also have a massive winter storm in the Midwest, up to a foot of snow and 50 to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We have snow in the Northwest. Okay. And then on top of all this, we have an Arctic blast coming in next week sometime, which could plunge temperatures as low as 50 degrees below average. Okay. So we could see some records broken in many areas of the country. So make sure you have all of your winter survival gear ready by the mid to end of next week. Here we have a snowfall map through January 24th, and it's from the European model. And you can see the Midwest and the Northeast have several feet of snow on the ground here. Okay, let me just show you guys the legend down here. You can see the bluish colors represent 24 inches of snow. You can see here much of Pennsylvania covered in 2 feet of snow, upstate New York, northern New England, the Midwest, the Great Lakes. Okay, so massive amounts of snow. Even cities like New York City, Long Island, and New Jersey are still going to have a few inches of snow, possibly 6 to 12 inches of snow on the ground by January 24th. We'll have to wait and see, but this is just a preliminary model from the European forecast, okay? The European model, all right? And I want to just show you guys another map here showing stratospheric warming happening right now, guys. Okay, and you can see these cold pockets over Eastern Europe and also over the Eastern US. You can clearly see here that the polar vortex is going to break down and Arctic air is going to spill out. So get prepared, guys. It's going to be very cold next week. So I'm going to continue to monitor this and keep you guys updated. And of course, I monitor all these events. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon below so you get notified when I post these updates. And I will be back later on this evening with another update. So until then, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.